it was weird too. I remember like in middle school, all my friends were like, ooh, Owen's so cute, la la la, and I'd be like, shit, but
You're a person.
they're a person.
I didn't really know what it was until probably 8th or 9th grade. Growing up, I just always assumed that I was better than everyone else. That everyone around me was just, I was just so much more mature. That's why I didn't want to bother with that kind of things. No one around me was mature enough for me to desire them. And then I realized a little bit later that no, I simply don't experience that.
I knew what I was feeling, but I didn't know that it had a name or what it was, called, or that there was a whole community around it. And that was really nice to find.
Hi,
What is your name?
my name is Natalie Winsworth. My pronouns are she, her.
I'm Fennec, and I use he, they pronouns.
Hi, I'm Tyler Kalecki, he, him. Oh, good God.
People talk about having to come out all the time, right? I think that's so true with asexuality, because not only do you have to come out, you then have to always explain what the fuck you're talking about.
It's a spectrum. No, it is a spectrum. It varies wildly between person to person.
So asexuality is a lack of an experience of sexual attraction.
I don't have any interest or any desire to have sex. Things that come naturally to other people, like wanting that, it has never happened for me.
Yeah, so I like to be complicated. So I generally use the label demisexual, which means that I only experience sexual attraction once I've formed a really deep emotional relationship with someone, usually a romantic relationship. When I'm on kind of the other side of my demisexuality, I am very heavily either sex neutral or sex repulsed.
I would say there's a difference between asexuality and aromantic. I am not aromantic. I very much want, have a need for love.
Still experience love. I still experience attraction and romantic attraction. I do. I just don't have sex with the people that I love romantically. That's all it is.
If for me to want to have a relationship, I have to know the person, I have to like the person, all that. But I don't think I've ever gotten the love at first sight type of thing, but I don't know if that's even real. If you ask me, I don't think I've ever had a crush on anyone. Like maybe I've had like celebrity crushes, but even that, like, you know? Yeah. That's a great question. I don't know if there was like a moment I knew. I think what happened was, like I was saying before, everyone else was getting crushes. I remember one of my friends, they were talking about how this one person was very sexy, and I just didn't understand. And so then my friend, she was like trying to describe it to me, and I just was not getting. I'm like, I can acknowledge that a person is attractive, but that like I want to have sex with them, it's not something that I understand.
The honest answer is it took me a hot minute. I definitely learned about asexuality and first heard all of those terms online. Oh, it was such a brain explosion. Like, I spent so much time like on FaceTime calls with my friends trying to be like, okay, no, break this down for me again. When you look at sexy lady in car advertisement, you want the, that sounds like fake. That sounds like a lie. Am I being punked right now? Like, it was very confusing, but at the same time, it was such a relief and such a release of like, there is a term for this. There is a community of this. This is It was a very validating experience to be like, oh, okay, that's what's going on here.
When I first started dating my current girlfriend, I found out that she was asexual, and I knew it was a thing, but I hadn't really considered that as like an option for myself before. And I'd never really heard another person who'd felt that way. It made a lot of things make sense, and it really opened my eyes.
I think for some reason, like I've told my parents a bunch, like I think I'm asexual, and they're like, oh, sure. You even ask my parents right now, I don't even know if they would say I am. Talk to like doctors about it. When the doctor says, oh, you haven't met the right person yet, that just kind of makes it even deeper.
There is a misconception, I guess I'd say, that asexuality is actually a medical disorder and not a sexuality. Thoughts on that?
But
I think that's inherently wrong.
Do you have any further thoughts on that?
If my sigh is not enough, yes, I do. I do have thoughts on that. And my thoughts are, it's bullshit. Sorry, can I curse in this? I think a lot of that comes from this fundamental idea that, like, without sex, which on its own is a whole other problem because ace people can still fuck, but, like, it comes from this idea that, like, your life can't be complete without that piece.
There is a piece that, like, you can't relate to them.
There is that underlying assumption that it is a thing that needs to be fixed, more so than even, I think, other queer identities. With asexuality, it's very much like something is wrong.
when I think of a disease or disorder, I think it's something that needs to be fixed.
It's not something to be fixed. Definitely not. I don't think that it's a medical disorder at all. I think it's something that is just natural about a person. It's the way a person is.
They think they're being helpful to be like, oh, have you tried taking pills? Have you tried seeing a doctor? It's like, no, because I don't need to. There isn't a problem here. It's just a different experience and a different identity and a different way of experiencing life.
It wasn't really until maybe like sophomore year of college that I really was like, I'm not waiting around, like this is me. This is actually it. I've never felt alienated because I've always just kind of played part. That friend I was telling you about, like, she had no idea that I was asexual because I just mimicked her.
She might have understood how you felt.
I do. And I think once I came out to her, while the initial reaction was a little not great, she bought me a vibrator. She's like, you just need to feel that. And I was like, I don't need it like she does. And once that kind of conversation happened, and I was like, look, like, I appreciate the thoughts. It's a great thought. That's just not me.
The underlying assumption, right, that is a thing that everyone experiences and everyone wants, and the way that that plays out in conversation and parties or big social gatherings, that kind of thing, it can be separating. I think worse than that, though, is definitely the bigger, like, societal implications, especially growing up in a very traditional part of Ohio. I remember being told in school a little bit, but especially in church and in a lot of these formative social gatherings, like growing up, of like, a lot of times they would talk about that as being like broken, having something wrong with you, and that is very alienating, especially for a young kid, like when you're still trying to figure out how everything fits in, being told by an authority figure, like, if you don't experience sexual attraction, you're dead inside. It's a real thing that I was told, and it's like, that makes you feel so invalidated and so othered and so different. And it's just so not true. It's so not true.
One of the things that I've struggled with has been letting myself experience the queer community. Because for a long time, personally, I felt like I didn't feel like I was queer enough, I guess, is the best way to put it. So I didn't feel like I belonged. And so I kind of stuck around heterosexual men. And in that group, I always felt alienated. You know, I always felt like I didn't belong. Like I was always one of the weird ones. I was made fun of, I was bullied, etc., so on and so forth. It didn't help that I was 6'5" and really tall for a middle schooler. It's kind of this idea that you gotta have sex in order to be a man. You know, you gotta get with a woman, you gotta have sex in order to be a man. That's the way I saw the world, you know? I've always been a romantic. I've always kind of chased after love. For the longest time, I thought, oh, sex would just come with that and I wouldn't have to worry about it. And so I didn't really think, I just worried about, finding someone who I was attracted to and I could love and they would love me back. Because I also did want love back. And for the longest time, I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't see why. And I'm like, oh, I must just not get it. Later on, finding out and kind of realizing about myself that I am asexual and I am autistic and I'm not like these heterosexual neurotypical guys. That I shouldn't be comparing myself to them. I should do my own thing. And I should try and figure out what love means to me and what finding a relationship and being valued means to me. And that took a minute, but I got really lucky.
What do you think people need to understand about asexuality overall?
Don't be a dick.
It's not a sad thing.
We're not unlovable.
It would be great if people understood that asexuality doesn't mean, especially in relationships, doesn't mean that you are missing out on something.
I'm not missing out because I never wanted it in the first place.
The point of a healthy relationship, hopefully, is that you're getting all of your needs met and most of your wants and desires met. If you don't have sex, you're not missing that piece because it's not a piece that you want. And if it is a piece that you want, then that's great. I think that's another thing people don't understand about asexuality. I am still sexually active, and that bamboozles a lot of people. And it's the simple thing of there are other reasons, there are other pieces that go into that are not my specific sexual desire. And that doesn't mean that you know what my relationships look like just because I tell you I'm ace.
Just because I don't want the same things as you doesn't make us different in any way, or something can be fixed. That's a big thing, like I don't need to be fixed or anything. Like I am fine the way I am, I'm vibing. That is something I wish people would know.
It's kind of taught me that like being me is okay. I know that kind of sounds cheesy, but I had this mentality that like, oh, I'm gonna have to have sex because I'm a heterosexual man and that's what I'm supposed to do. But I don't have to be something for anybody. I can just be whatever I am for myself.
I've had partners in the past who have literally been like, don't love with me or rejected me because I didn't want to have sex. That's kind of something I've learned that, but at one point in my life, I would be like, well, what's wrong with me? I wish that I accepted it and the world was more accepting of it. And then I could have more self-confidence about that. I don't know. I wish that instead of people for years, doctors, my parents saying you just haven't met the right person, that they would be like, yeah, maybe you are, and that's okay, and that's something that you can actually do and not something that needs to be fixed.
I think being asexual has, especially coming into accepting that identity and making that a part of who I am, it's taught me a lot about my own autonomy in a lot of ways. It is something that makes me feel more at home in myself, in what I want, in how I'm interacting. And it is something that, because it's very misunderstood, has led to a lot of having to stand up and set boundaries and know what I want and know how to get there. And I think that's a really beautiful thing of getting an opportunity to, you know, look at the traditional or the accepted and just be like, no, that doesn't serve me, and therefore I'm not going to deal with it. And I think that is a very freeing thing.